Welcome back to Internal Affairs, where we shine a light on police practices that impact public trust, safety, and constitutional rights. I'm Dr. Roy Taylor, your host, and today's episode 6, takes us deep into the field of police canine deployments. We're going to examine a South Carolina County Sheriff's Office case involving K-9 Bruno and how decisions made by deputies that night turned a law enforcement tool into a source of unnecessary injury and legal liability. This is more than just a story of one man bitten by a dog. It's a case study in how misuse of force, specifically misuse of a canine, can erode the very trust that officers rely on to protect our communities. On October 31st, 2013, deputies responded to a violent home invasion where three men wearing masks, armed with semi-automatic pistols, and yelling "police search warrant" robbed a local marijuana dealer. The trio entered a Dodge Durango that they had hidden behind a vacant home and were leaving the area when one of the responding deputies saw them and thought they may be involved. He turned around and followed them until a backup unit arrived. They then activated their emergency equipment, but the Durango sped away. As deputies pursued the suspects, the men jumped out of their moving SUV and fled on foot. The SUV crashed into a nearby home. The sheriff's office was able to use cell phone technology and located one of the suspects when he attempted to use his cell phone. The phone's GPS indicated that the call was made from a nearby golf course. Deputy Henderson, a canine handler, arrived at the golf course and released K-9 Bruno off leash into the night. First problem: no warning was given. Warnings are not optional. They are a fundamental requirement of police canine deployments. Courts have been crystal clear on this case, such as in Vatican versus Prince George counties and Kua versus City of Minnetonka. The purpose, simple: give suspects an opportunity to surrender peacefully and protect innocent bystanders who may also be in the area. But that didn't happen here. Instead, Bruno located two of the suspects in a wooded area on the golf course, and he immediately engaged Mr. Cohen by biting his arm. Deputy Henderson arrived and had to choke K-9 Bruno off Mr. Cohen. The deputy then stood on Mr. Cohen and held on to his dog's collar while pointing his gun at the second suspect. Deputy Taylor arrived and handcuffed both suspects. The pair were then escorted out of the wooded area out onto the fairway. Deputy Henderson warned them if they ran, he would release his dog, who would then bite them. Deputy Henderson ordered Mr. Cohen to lie on the ground, presumably to search him. When Mr. Cohen didn't move fast enough, the deputy allowed K-9 Bruno to bite Mr. Cohen's left calf. Let me be very clear. Force must stop once the suspect is subdued and complying. That's not just a policy, it's constitutional law. Under Johnson versus Scott and reinforced by the Fourth Amendment, the county sheriff's office had its own general order, 520.1, on the use of force, which states possible attempts will be made to gain control through the use of advice, warnings, persuasion, and verbal encounters. Deputy Henderson's failure to issue warnings, his decision to allow the dog to operate beyond his line of sight, and the directed second bite after compliance were all violation of professional standards. It was also unusual that the sheriff's office had policies for their SWAT team and aviation unit, but none for the canine section. In addition, the use of force reports indicated that K-9 Bruno had 13 bites before he was used on Mr. Cohen and has had 16 afterwards, all within a 4-year period. This number of canine deployments is exceptionally high. Now let's step back. Why does this matter beyond South Carolina? Police canines are often trained to assist officers, not replace their judgment. Proper deployment requires handler control, clear warnings, and the ability to command an immediate release. Courts have emphasized this repeatedly in cases like Fikes versus Cleghorn and Miller versus Clark County, when officers use dogs as weapons of compliance rather than as tools of detection and apprehension. It crosses the constitutional line. It becomes excessive force. This case also illustrates what I call the clear, down, and up principle. The standard tactical method of keeping the dog in sight, downing it before it moves out of control, and advancing with other officers as backup. Deputy Henderson skipped those steps, effectively giving Bruno free rein. The result? A suspect left with permanent injuries and a sheriff's office facing federal litigation for excessive force. Let's not forget, canine bites can cause permanent disfigurement, nerve damage, and psychological trauma. Every canine deployment is a use of force and must be evaluated under the same Fourth Amendment standard of objective reasonableness outlined in Graham versus Connor. And in this case, the bite after surrender was not reasonable, it was punitive. So, what's the takeaways? Canine warnings are mandatory, both for suspects and for innocent bystanders. Control is non negotiable. Handlers must maintain visual contact and immediately release capability of their dogs. Force must stop once compliance begins. Any continued bite is unconstitutional. Policy and practice must align. Departments must train, supervise, and discipline handlers to ensure that canines are used as tools and not as weapons. When those standards are ignored, dogs like Bruno don't just bite suspects, they bite into the Constitution, public trust, and the very legitimacy of policing. This has been Internal Affairs with Dr. Roy Taylor. Thank you for listening. In our next episode, we'll continue exploring how tactical decisions made in seconds can have consequences that last a lifetime. Until then, stay safe, stay informed, and always demand accountability.